So we'll continue our discussion of the skeleton with the lower limb. So the hip bones are the make up part of the pelvic girdle. They articulate with the sacrum. This is the beginning of the lower limb and the appendicular skeleton. The hip bones themselves don't really have a name. Sometimes it's called the coxal bone, the os coxae, sometimes it's called the hip bone, sometimes it's called the innominate bone, which means the bone that has no name. And it really doesn't have a name because it's three bones that are fused together: the ilium, the ischium, and the pubis. And then they join with the axial sacrum and coccyx to form the pelvis. So it ends up looking like this. This part is the ilium, down to this, where the hip joint is, which is called the acetabulum. This bone here, kind of a wishbone shaped thing, is the pubic bone. This is called the superior pubic ramus. This is the inferior pubic ramus, and this is the body of the pubis. And the bone that you're actually sitting on is called the ischium. So that's kind of the bone that you can palpate right in your bum. This big hole here is called the obturator foramen, and it's obscured. It's there to make this whole thing lighter. This is the iliac crest. This is an important landmark. So the ilium is the superior region. It's where the sacroiliac joints are. It's what the part that goes to the sacrum. Ischium is your bum. Pubis is in front. And the two pubic bones join here at a joint called the pubic symphysis. This is a side view looking at the regions. Now, in children, these three bones are separate. In adults, they fuse. When you compare the male and female pelvis, there's you can see, when you know what you're looking for, you can see very distinct changes. So female pelvis has got an area called the true pelvis. It's broad and shallow, big capacity. That's where the baby is. The male pelvis is tilted less forward. It's more vertical. And the true pelvis is narrow and deep. It doesn't ever have to hold a baby. The female pelvis is lighter, smoother. The angle between the two pubic bones is 80 to 90 degrees. The acetabula are small and further apart, and they're kind of angled. Funny, so a woman's leg doesn't arc front to back, more on a oblique plane. The sacrum is shorter and wider in women, and the coccyx is more movable and straighter, so it doesn't get in the way. So when you look at it, this is a very typical male pelvis, very typical female pelvis. This is where the birth canal is. The baby has to come through that space. On man, no. So the lower limb extends from there. It's made up of three parts: the thigh, which is hip to knee; leg, which is knee to ankle; and foot distal to that. There are 7 tarsal bones in the ankle, 5 metatarsals, and 14 phalanges. Each toe, the lateral 4 toes have 3 phalanges. The big toe only has 2. And there are only 7 tarsal bones as opposed to the 8 carpal bones. So the femur is large and very strong. It's a huge weight-bearing bone. At the proximal end, there's the head that articulates with the acetabulum to make the hip joint, and at the distal end, it articulates with the tibia and the patella to make the knee joint. So this is what it looks like. When people fall and break the hip, older osteoporotic people, oftentimes it breaks right here at the neck. The head is a big ball for a ball and socket joint of the hip. It's the one that gets replaced in hip replacement surgery. The patella is a sesamoid bone, which we'll talk about later when we talk joints, and it runs in this groove in the front of the femur. These are called the condyles, and they make up an important part of the knee joint. The tibia is the weight-bearing joint. It transfers the weight from the knee down to the tarsal bones, the talus specifically. It's found on the medial side of the leg, and the fibula is on the lateral side of the leg. The fibula doesn't articulate with the femur at all. It only articulates with the tibia in two places, and the side of the talus. The fibula provides sites for muscular attachment and kind of provides that tensile strength when the tibia is being compressed as well. It looks like this. This is where the ankle sits in, the talus fits in there. These are the malleoli, medial malleoli and lateral malleolus. They're the bones that you feel on the sides of your ankle. Weight bearing comes from the knee up here, down through the tibia to the ankle. This part is your shin. On the medial side, you will see that there's nothing but skin over top of the tibia. You can palpate the tibia here. There's no muscle attached at that point. This is the tibial tuberosity. This is where your quadriceps muscles attach, and there are a lot of kids end up with a problem with this. It's called Osgood-Schlatter's, and it's where this bone has too much pressure on it too young, and it evolves. It comes off, or it cracks a little bit anyway. Quite painful. This is the same thing from behind. Medial side is on this side, lateral side is on this side. Fibula is on the lateral side. 7 tarsal bones form the foot and heel. The talus articulates with the tibia and the fibula, transfers the weight. The calcaneus is your heel bone, and where the Achilles tendon is attached, and it's the part that comes into contact with the ground. The other tarsal bones are the cuboid, which articulates with the calcaneus, the navicular, which articulates with the talus, and 3 cuneiforms, medial, intermediate, and lateral cuneiforms. Cune means wedge-shaped, so these are 3 wedge-shaped bones. There are 5 metatarsals. The ball of your foot are the heads of the metatarsals, and 14 phalanges, as I've already mentioned. There is a proximal, a distal phalange in all the 5 toes, and the lateral 4 toes have a middle phalange. The big toe is called the halix. So there are the 3 phalanges here, and only 2 here. These are the metatarsals. Big toe is number 1. 3 cuneiforms that form an arch. Boat-shaped navicular, kind of a 6-sided bone called the cuboid, calcaneus, and the talus. This is looking down. This is where your ankle hinges. From the side, it looks like this. This is the calcaneus with the tuberosity that becomes weight bearing. This little shelf sticks out and holds up the talus, so it's called the sustentaculum tali, which means holds up talus. The talus is this bone here, navicular, and the medial cuneiform. The three cuneiforms and the cuboid form the transverse arch here. This is the medial longitudinal arch. On the little toe side, there's the lateral longitudinal arch. Which is what I just said here. So it kind of looks like this. And the three arches are all different, but they're all important to the mechanics of the foot. The whole science of orthotics is based on that.